You know, in the world of real estate, a key just turned in a lock that's felt rusted shut for decades. Seriously, a huge policy shift just redefined who gets access to the industry's most critical tool, and it could really change how agents and, yeah, the entire market operate. So let's dive in.
So let me just ask you this. What if the key, the actual key to nearly every single home for sale in the country, just became available to a whole new group of people? And that's not just some hypothetical question. It's exactly what's starting to happen right now. And it all comes down to one incredibly powerful private database.
And yeah, that database is the Multiple Listing Service, or what everyone just calls the MLS. You can think of it as the central nervous system of real estate. It's where agents list every property for sale and where they find homes for their buyers. For decades, access to this thing was super tightly controlled. It was basically the exclusive playground for a very specific group. But that locked door? Well, it is now officially swinging open. The National Association of Realtors just completely overturned a long-standing rule about who gets to hold the key to the MLS, and it's fundamentally changing the power structure of the entire industry.
Okay, so here's the headline. The National Association of Realtors, we'll call them NAR, has repealed a core policy. For the very first time on a national level, they are officially allowing local MLSs to grant access to any licensed agent, whether or not they are a paying member of NAR. In other words, MLS access is no longer exclusive to realtors.
And listen, this is a really important difference to get. Any licensed real estate agent can help you buy or sell a home. But a realtor with that capital R and the little trademark symbol is a licensed agent who is also a paying member of the National Association of Realtors and agrees to follow its code of ethics. And for a long, long time, you had to be a realtor to get into the MLS. But here's where the story gets really interesting, because while NAR's big national decision feels like a total revolution, it turns out this door, well, it wasn't completely locked to begin with. In some of the biggest markets in the country, it's actually been ajar for a very, very long time.
So, no, this isn't NAR leading the charge into some new frontier. It's more like the national organization is finally catching up to a trend that's been quietly building for decades, pioneered by some of the largest and most influential MLSs out there.
And just look at this timeline. It shows that NAR's recent decision didn't just happen in a vacuum. I mean, this push for open access started way back. A court case in California pried the door open in the 1980s. Then you see major markets like Arizona and Houston follow suit over the next couple of decades. So NAR's 2025 move? It wasn't some revolutionary act. It was really just the final domino to fall in a trend that was already well underway. So if this has been happening for so long, you gotta ask, why the big national change right now? Well, it turns out there was a major catalyst, a really powerful push from inside the industry itself. The thing that really pushed it over the edge was this widespread frustration among brokerages over all those high-profile lawsuits challenging agent commissions. A lot of brokers felt that NAR's handling of the whole mess left them totally exposed, and they wanted another option. A way to get the essential MLS data without being tied to an organization they were starting to lose faith in.
And this quote just nails the feeling at the time. Michael Barbaro, who's the president of Smart MLS in Connecticut, put it really bluntly. He said he heard directly from small brokers who were, in his words, just disgusted and wanted out of NAR completely. Now that is some powerful direct pressure for change.
Okay, so the door is now open for non-realtors. But what's the catch, right? Is this new MLS only access the same as what realtors have always had? Well, not exactly. Let's take a look at the price of entry.
This table breaks it down perfectly. The most important thing, full access to all that MLS data, is exactly the same for both. But the differences are really key. The MLS-only folks don't need to join NAR, but they usually have to pay a higher fee for access. And on top of that, they might not get all the extra tools, like the standardized legal forms that come with a realtor membership.
And here's a perfect real-world example of what that fee difference looks like. Bright MLS, which is one of the biggest in the country, charges its realtor members $120 a quarter. For non-realtors, that price jumps up to $174. So you're basically paying a premium to be independent from the association.
So all of this brings us to the big question. What happens now? With this new national policy in place, are we going to see a mass exodus of agents dropping their realtor memberships? Let's see what the experts who've actually been living with this model for years have to say. Michael Barbaro, the same guy from before whose MLS just made this change, is pretty clear. He says they just don't expect a stampede for the exits. Because even with all that frustration that led to the change,
The value that realtor associations provide, I'm talking about things like advocacy, education, and, of course, those legal forms, that stuff still holds a lot of weight for a lot of agents.
And you know what? The data from places that have had this option for decades totally backs that up. The CEO of Arizona's MLS said that after nearly 30 years of offering an MLS-only option, the number of agents who actually choose it is not materially significant. In other words, it's a really important option to have, but it hasn't broken the old model.
So while a massive exodus seems unlikely, the trend toward open access is pretty much undeniable. This isn't really about agents leaving NAR in droves, it's about providing choice. And like Matthew Consalvo from ARMLS says, for all those MLSs that have kept their doors shut all these years, maybe it's time to open them up. This policy change from NAR is basically the official green light. So you see, this is way more than just some internal policy debate. It's a real crack in the foundation of the real estate industry. And the key question now is this: will this new access lead to real innovation, more competition, and maybe better business models for all of us as consumers? Or is it just going to be a minor shift, really just changing the name on the membership card? For the first time, the door is truly open, and what comes through it could reshape the market for years to come.